The 19th of May, 1899, Volume 2. Humility is the safeguard of the celestial favours. This morning I felt a fear within me that it might not be Jesus but the devil who wanted to deceive me. Jesus came, and seeing me with this fear, he said to me, "Humility is the safeguard of the celestial favours. Humility clothes the soul with such safety that the tricks of the devil cannot penetrate into her. Humility places all celestial graces in safety, so much so that when I see humility, I let flow abundantly all kinds of celestial favours. Therefore, do not want to disturb yourself for this, but rather, with a simple eye, look always into your interior to see whether you are invested with beautiful humility, and do not worry about all the rest." Then he showed me many religious people, and among them priests, even of holy life. But as good as they were, they lacked that spirit of simplicity in believing in the many graces and the many ways the Lord uses with souls. Jesus said to me, "I communicate myself both to the humble and to the simple, because they immediately believe in my graces and take them into great consideration, though they may be ignorant and poor. But with these others, you see, I'm very reluctant, because the first step which draws the soul near me is belief. And it happens that these, with all their science and doctrine and even holiness, never come to experience a ray of celestial light. That is, they walk along the natural way, and they never arrive at touching even slightly that which is supernatural. This is also the reason for which, in the course of my mortal life, there was not one learned, one priest, one man of power among my followers, but all ignorant and of low condition, because these were more humble and simple, and also more disposed to make great sacrifices for me." End of the reading. The 19th of May, 1911, Volume 10. Confidence captures Jesus. Jesus wants the soul to forget about herself and occupy herself with him alone. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen, all afflicted, and I was around him, all intent on compassionating him, loving him, embracing him, and consoling him with all the fullness of confidence. And my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, you are my contentment. I like it this way, that the soul forgets about herself, about her miseries, and occupies herself only with me, with my afflictions, with my bitternesses, with my love, and she remains around me with all confidence. This confidence captures my heart and inundates me with so much joy that just as the soul forgets all of herself for me, I forget everything for her, and I make her one single thing for me. And I reach the point of not only giving her, but of letting her take everything she wants." On the other hand, to the soul who does not forget everything for me, even her miseries, and who, if she wants to be around me, does so with all respect, with fear, and without the confidence that captures my heart, as though wanting to be with me with fearful restraint and all circumspect, to this one I give nothing, and she can take nothing, because the key of confidence, of ease, of simplicity is missing. These are all necessary things in order for me to give and for her to receive, and so she comes with miseries, and with miseries she remains. End of the reading. The 19th of May, 1922, Volume 14. In heaven, the divine will produces beatitude, while on earth it is operative and multiplies its life and its goods in the act of the creature. Continuing in my usual state, my always lovable Jesus made himself seen within my interior, from which a little door opened, and he leaned his arms on it and put his head out to see what the other creatures were doing. I looked together with Jesus, but who can say the evils that appeared, the offences being given, and the chastisements that will pour down? This sight so sorrowful was horrifying. I also saw our poor country being struck by the divine scourge. Now, seeing that Jesus was looking with such tenderness of love and sorrow, while in the previous days it had been impossible for me to have him look and turn his face toward creatures, I said to him, "My love and my life, do you see how much your dear brothers and mine suffer? Don't you want to have pity? How willingly would I suffer everything so that they might be spared. See, this is a duty that the state of victim imposes on me, the imitation of you. Did you not suffer everything for us? And how could you want me not to suffer in order to spare them and to imitate you who suffered so much?" And Jesus, interrupting me, told me, "My daughter, man has reached such a point that I cannot look at him but with horror. And if I look at him, it is only from within you, because finding all the tendernesses of my humanity and my prayers in you, I feel moved to look at him with compassion, and for love of you, I will spare their lives. Man needs strong purges, otherwise he will not change his mind. Therefore, I will sweep everything away so as to renew everything. I will do unexpected things, new chastisements, for which man will not be able to find the reason, and this in order to confuse him. But do not fear. For love of you, I will spare something. In you, I feel the current of the communications with all creatures, just as I felt it in my humanity. Therefore, it is hard for me not to give you anything and not to make you content in anything." Later on, I found myself outside of myself at a very high point, and I found my celestial mamma, a late Archbishop of ours, my parents, and my sweet Jesus, who was in the arms of the bishop. As soon as he saw me, the bishop placed him in my arms, telling me, "Take him, my daughter, and enjoy him." Jesus made feast in my arms and said, "Dearest daughter of my will, I want to renew the bond of the great gift of making you live in my will. This is why I wanted here present as representatives, my dear mamma, the bishop who took part in your direction when he was on earth, and your parents, so that you may remain confirmed even more in my will, and may receive all the current and the goods which my will contains, and so that they may be the first to receive the glory of the work of living in my will. You are nothing but an atom in my will, but in this atom I place all the weight of my will, so that as you move, the immense sea of my volition may receive its motion, its waters may ripple, and as though stirred, they may give off their freshness, their fragrances, and may overflow for the good of heaven and earth. The atom is small, extremely light, and is unable to agitate all the immense sea of my will, but once the weight of my will has been placed in it, it will be capable of everything. And you will give me the field to release more divine acts from myself. You will be like a little stone which is cast into a fount. As it drops, the waters ripple, get rough, and give off their freshness and fragrance. However, the little stone does not contain the weight of my will, and therefore cannot make the fount overflow. But your atom, with the weight of my will, can not only overwhelm my sea, but flood heaven and earth. You will drink all of my will, with all the goods it contains, as though in one gulp, and in another gulp you will let it out. And while you do this, you will multiply my life and my goods, as many times for as many times as you drink it, and for as many times as you release it. And if the blessed in heaven enjoy all the beatitude which my will contains, and live in it as in their own centre, however, they do not multiply it, since their merits are fixed in them. You are happier than them because you can multiply my life, my will, and my goods. In them, my will brings beatitude, while in you it is operative. And I ask for your acts in order to multiply myself. When you operate, I anxiously watch whether you operate in my will, so as to receive the contentment of seeing myself multiplied in your act. How attentive you should be, and let nothing escape you. End of the reading. The 19th of May, 1924, Volume 16. All the acts of one who lives in the divine will, whether little or great, acquire the value of eternal and divine acts. My poor mind wandered in the immensity of the supreme volition. I felt as if I was inside a sea, and my whole being was drinking in large gulps the salutary water of the eternal will. Even more, it entered from every part, from my ears, from my mouth, from my eyes, from my nostrils, from the pores of my body. Now, while I was in this state, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, my daughter, my will is eternal, and only for one who lives in it, embracing eternity, all her acts, from the tiniest to the greatest, being animated by an eternal will, acquire the value, the merit, the shape of divine and eternal acts. The divine will empties those acts of all that is human, and filling them with its will, makes them its own, and places on them the seal, making of them as many eternal and divine acts. On hearing this, surprised, I said, how is it possible, O my highest good, that only by living in your will the creature can receive this great good, that her acts become eternal and divine? And Jesus, why are you surprised? It is a most simple thing. The whole reason is because my will is eternal and divine, and everything that comes from it, being a birth from an eternal and divine will, cannot be excluded from being eternal and divine, as long as the creature puts her human will aside to give place to mine. If she does so, her acts are counted among ours, both the great and the little. And then this happened in creation. How many things, great and small, were not created, even the little seed, the little insect. But although little, one cannot say that my great works were created by this supreme will, and therefore they are divine works, while the small ones have not been created by a divine hand. And even though one can see that all the things which were created in the atmosphere, heaven, sun, stars, etc., are always fixed and stable, while those which were created in the low earth, flowers, plants, birds, etc., are subject to die and to be born again, this says nothing. On the contrary, because they were created by an eternal and divine will, every seed has the virtue of multiplying, because all things contain my creative and preserving virtue. Now, if all created things, small and great, created by virtue of my omnipotent fiat, can be called divine works, much more can one call divine and eternal the acts which my will works in the soul, who, placing her human will at the feet of my will, gives me full freedom to let my will operate. Ah, if creatures could see a soul who lets my will live within her, they would see astonishing things never seen before. A God working in the little circle of the human will is the greatest thing which can exist on earth and in heaven. Creation itself, oh, how behind it would remain compared to the prodigies I work in this creature. End of the reading. The 19th of May, 1931, Volume 29, Scenes from Eden, Fall of Man, the Queen of Heaven crushing the head of the infernal serpent. How the words of Jesus have the communicative virtue, how he speaks of the doubts and difficulties. I was continuing my acts in the divine volition and uniting myself to the acts that it did in creation, in order to give it the homage, the love, the adoration for each thing created for love of creatures. My poor mind brought itself into Eden in the act of the fall of man, as the infernal serpent with his cunning and lie induced Eve to withdraw from the will of her Creator, and Eve, with her enticing manners, induced Adam to fall into the same sin. Now, while I was thinking about this, my beloved Jesus told me, "My daughter, my love was not extinguished because of the fall of man, but became more ignited. And even though my justice justly punished him and condemned him, my love, kissing my justice, without delay promised the future Redeemer, and said to the deceitful serpent with the empire of my power, 'You have made use of a woman to snatch man from my divine will, and I, by means of another woman who will have in her power the power of my fiat, will knock down your pride, and with her immaculate foot she will crush your head.'" These words burned the infernal serpent more than hell itself, and he stored so much rage in his heart that he could no longer stay still. He would do nothing but go round and round the earth to discover she who was to crush his head, not in order to let it be crushed, but so as to be able with his infernal arts, with his diabolical tricks, to make fall she who was to defeat him, debilitate him, and bind him in the dark abysses. So for 4,000 years he kept always wandering, and when he would see women who were more virtuous and good, he would arm his battle. He would tempt them in every way, and only then would he leave them, when he would be assured, by means of some weakness or defects, that they were not she through whom he was to be defeated, and he would continue his wandering. Then came indeed the celestial creature who crushed his head, and the enemy felt such power in her that knocked him down, and he did not have the strength to go near her. This consumed him with rage, and he employed all his infernal weapons to fight her. But no, he would try to go near her. He would feel himself being worn down, his legs being broken, and would be forced to draw back. And from afar he would spy on her admirable virtues, her power and sanctity. And I, in order to confound him and make him doubtful, would let him see the celestial sovereign, her human things like taking food, crying, sleeping, and other things, and he would persuade himself that it was not she, because being so powerful and holy, she was not to be subject to the natural needs of life. But then he would go back to doubts and wanted to return to assault, but in vain. My will is power that debilitates all evils and all the infernal powers. It is light that makes itself known by all, and wherever it reigns, it makes its power felt, that not even the very demons can get themselves to deny. Therefore, the Queen of Heaven was, and is, the terror of all hell. Now the infernal serpent feels over his head my immediate word spoken to him in Eden, my irrevocable condemnation that a woman would crush his head. Therefore he knows that by his head being crushed, his kingdom on earth will be overturned. He will lose his prestige, and all the evil he did in Eden by means of a woman will be made up for by another woman. And even though the Queen of Heaven debilitated him, crushed his head, and I myself bound him to the cross, therefore he is no longer free to do what he wants. However, those who by disgrace draw near him he slaughters. More so, since he sees that the human will is not subdued by the divine, and its kingdom is not yet formed, he fears that another woman might get to finish burning his temples, so that the divine condemnation over his head, crushed by the foot of the Immaculate Queen, may have its fulfillment. In fact, he knows that when I speak, my word has the communicative virtue to other creatures. Therefore, As he was assured that he whom he feared was the most holy Virgin, and being unable to fight her any more, he resumed his round. He is all eye, and as though on the lookout to see whether another woman might have the task from God to make the divine will known in order to make it reign. And having seen you write so much about my fiat, at the mere doubt that this might be it, he roused the whole of hell against you. This is the cause of everything you have suffered, as he made use of wicked men, having them make up calumnies and things that do not exist. Then in seeing you cry so much, they were persuaded that you are not the one who could cause them the ruin that they so much fear for their diabolical kingdom. This is what regards the Queen of Heaven on the part of the infernal serpent. Now I want to tell you what regards the part of creatures toward her. My daughter, the celestial creature was poor. Her natural qualities were apparently common. Nothing extraordinary appeared on the outside. She takes a poor artisan as her spouse, who earns his daily bread with his humble work. Suppose that it had become known before to the great ones of the world, to the doctors and the priests, that she was the mother of the Word, that she was the one who was the mother of the future Messiah. They would have waged a fierce war against her. No one would have believed her. They would have said, is it possible that there have not been and that there aren't women in Israel such that this poor one was to be the mother of the eternal Word? There has been a Judith, an Esther, and many others. So no one would have believed her. They would have placed countless doubts and difficulties. If they placed doubts on my divine person, not believing that I was the longed-for Messiah, and many reached the point of still not believing that I descended upon earth, in spite of the fact that I made many miracles, such as to induce the most incredulous to believe me. When hardness, obstinacy enters into hearts, they render themselves incapable of receiving any good. The truths, the very miracles, are for them as though dead and without life. Well then, much more so for the celestial Mama, as nothing miraculous appeared in her exterior. Now, my daughter, listen to me. The most serious doubts, the gravest difficulties that they found in your writings are precisely these. That I told you that I was calling you to live in the kingdom of my divine will, giving you the special and unique mission to make it known, so that, as I myself said in the Our Father, and the Holy Church still says now, thy kingdom come, that is, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It does not say in the Our Father that this kingdom is on earth, but it says come. And I would not have composed a prayer if I were not to obtain its effects. Therefore, in order to reach this, was I not to elect another woman whom the infernal serpent so much fears? And as he, by means of the first woman, ruined mankind for me, I, to confound him, make use of another woman to make up for the ruin he caused, and make the good that he tried to destroy arise for all. Hear then the necessity of the preparations, of the graces, of my visits and communications. This sounded bad to those who have read, therefore doubts and difficulties, that it cannot be possible that among so many other great saints, no one has lived in the kingdom of my will, so it is she alone that is preferred to all. And when they have read that I was placing you near the sovereign queen, so that she, having lived in the kingdom of my divine fiat, you might imitate her, wanting to make of you a copy that resembles her, and I placed you in her hands, that she might guide you, assist you, protect you, so that you might imitate her in everything. This seemed so absurd to them, and sinisterly misinterpreting the sense, they spoke as if I had told you that you were as though another queen. How much nonsense! I did not say that you are like the celestial queen, but that I want you similar to her, just as I have said to many other souls dear to me that I wanted them similar to me. But with this they would not become God like me. And then, since the celestial lady is the true queen of the kingdom of my will, it is her task to help and teach the fortunate creatures who want to enter to live in it. By this they show as if I did not have the power to elect whom I want and when I want. But after all, time will say everything. And just as they cannot deny that the Virgin of Nazareth is my mamma, so they will not be able to deny that I elected you for the sole purpose of making my will known, and that through you I will obtain that thy kingdom come may have its fulfillment. It is certain that creatures are an instrument in my hands, and I do not look at who it is, but I look at whether my divine will has decided to operate by means of this instrument, and this is enough for me to fulfill my highest designs. And of the doubts and difficulties of creatures, I make use in due time to confound them and humiliate them. But I do not stop, and I move forward in the work that I want to do by means of the creature. Therefore, you too follow me and do not draw back. Besides, it shows from their way of thinking that they have calculated only your person, but have not calculated what my divine will can do and what it knows how to do. And when it decides to operate in one creature, in order to fulfill its greatest designs in the midst of the human generations, it lets no one dictate to it the law, neither who it must be, nor the time, nor the way, nor the place. But it acts in an absolute way. Nor does it pay heed to certain limited minds who are unable to elevate themselves in the divine and supernatural order, or to bow their forehead to the incomprehensible works of their Creator. And while they want to reason with their own human reason, they lose the divine reason and remain confounded and incredulous. End of the reading. The 19th of May, 1938, volume 36. How the divine will is the paralysis of all the evils, while the human will paralyzes God. How to love and possess. How God is formed in the creature and the creature in God. Fears about the writings. I was always in the ocean of the divine volition, which, as if wanting to put me on guard and warn me not to let in my poor restless human will, left me all concerned. My sweet Jesus, visiting my little soul, told me, my blessed daughter, courage, don't be afraid. The virtue, the power of my will is such that upon entering into it, all the evils, passions, missteps, and works remain paralyzed. The human will is defeated to the point of dying without really dying. However, it understands with great joy, but while the evils are paralyzed, it feels a life of goodness rising again, a light that never ends, a never-ending strength, eternal love, heroic sacrifice, and invincible patience. I can say that my will puts an end to the evils of the creature, since it is the principle and life of every good. Now, as my fiat has the power to paralyze evils, the human will paralyzes every good when it reigns in the creature. Poor good, trapped under the paralysis of the human will. It wants to walk but can barely drag itself. It wants to work but it feels its arms sagging. It wants to think good thoughts but it feels stunned and stupid. The human will, without my will, is the source of all evils and the total ruin of the poor creature. After that, my beloved Jesus added in such a moving tone, my daughter, the one who wants to possess me must love me. Loving and possessing are the same thing. As you love me, so I remain formed in your soul, and as you love me more, I grow. Only love makes me grow, and through more love, I reveal myself so as to be loved even more. So to the degree that you love me, I let you feel how much I love you. As soon as you love me, I love and possess you. And as we mutually love each other, I form you and grow you within me. I feed you with my love and with the life of my will. I inundate you with the seas of love to make you feel how much I love you and with how much tenderness I grow within my heart. How jealously I keep you so that you may love me more and with my own tenderness. This is the jealousy of love. The soul is all attentive in giving me her life in every instant to love me, to make me joyful and happy in herself, the way I make her joyful and happy inside my heart. Love wants reciprocity, and if it loves not being loved, it feels unhappy and embittered because of what it should receive, but does not. Therefore love me always, and if you really want to love me, do it in my will, in which you will find endless love to tie me with love chains, chains so long that I won't be able to free myself. After this, I was thinking of my big sacrifice and my reluctance in writing all this, my interior fights to put the pen on paper. Only the thought of displeasing Jesus made me do it, obeying the one who was imposing this on me. And I was saying to myself, who knows where they will end up, into which hands? Who knows how many quibbles, oppositions, doubts they will cause to arise? I felt restless. My mind was being darkened by such apprehension that I felt like I was dying. But my sweet Jesus came back to calm me down and told me, my daughter, do not trouble yourself. These writings are mine, not yours, and in whichever hands they go, nobody will be able to touch them to ruin them. I will take care of them, defend them, since they are mine, and whoever will take them in good will find my chain of light and love for the creatures. With these writings, I pour out my love. I can call them the expression of the follies, delirium, excesses of my love with which I want to win the creatures, to make them come back into my arms, to make them feel how much I love them. To let them know my love even more, I want to reach the excess of giving them the great gift of my will as life, since only in it will man be safe and feel the flames, the anxiousness of my love. So whoever will read these writings with the intention of finding the truth will feel my flames and, all transformed in love, will love me more. But whoever will read them to split hairs and find doubts will remain blinded and confused by my light and my love. My children, the goodness of my truths produce two opposite effects. For those who are disposed, it is light, giving sight to their intelligence and the life of sanctity contained in my truth. For those who are not disposed, it is blindness that deprives them of the good contained in my truth. Then he added, my daughter, have courage and don't be troubled. All that your Jesus did was necessary to my love and to the importance of what I had to manifest to you about my divine will. I can say that it was necessary for my very life and to accomplish the work of creation. So at the beginning of this state of yours, I had to use many stratagems of love. I tried so much intimacy with you that it's almost unbelievable how I reached that point. I also made you suffer much to see whether you would accept everything. Then I drowned you with my graces, with my love. And again I gave you more sufferings to be sure you would deny me nothing. All this to win your will. Oh, if I hadn't shown you my love, I wouldn't have given you my grace. Do you think you would have easily submitted yourself to this state of suffering for so long? It is my love, my truth, that kept you and still keep you there, as if magnetized to the one who loves you so much. However, everything I did at the beginning of your state was necessary. It had to serve as the basis, decency, decorum, preparation, sanctity, and disposition to the great truth I was going to manifest to you about my will. Therefore, I will be more interested in the writings than you, and because they are mine. And just one truth about my fiat is life that I want to give to creatures. You can understand this from all you suffered and from the graces I gave you to manifest to you my truths on my holy will. So be calm and let's love each other. My daughter, let's not break our love because it costs much to both of us. To you in keeping your life sacrificed at my disposal, to me in sacrificing myself for you. With Jesus talking, I still couldn't feel completely calm. As he was speaking, peace came back to me. But afterwards, thinking about what happened to me during these days, that it is not necessary here to say, I started to feel troubled again. So for about 2 days after this, my sweet Jesus remained silent, and because of this, I felt completely exhausted, extremely weak. Then my beloved Jesus, having compassion for me, all goodness, came and told me, poor daughter of mine, you haven't eaten. This is why you have no strength. It's 2 days since you have taken any food because you were not at peace, so I couldn't feed you with my truths. My truths are food for the soul, but give also strength to the body. By being so troubled, you wouldn't have understood me, nor would you have been disposed to take such a delicious food. You must know that peace is the door through which truth enters, the first kiss, the invitation of the creatures disposed to listen, to let it speak. Therefore, if you want me to give you a lot of food, go back to your state of peace. Furthermore, during these days, you've been so troubled that heaven, angels, and saints have been trembling over you. They felt a bad air that did not belong to them coming from you. So they all prayed for you to find your peace again. Peace is the smile of heaven, the source of celestial joys. Look at your Jesus. I am never troubled over any offense they can give me. I can say that my throne is peace. So I want you wholly peaceful, my daughter, because in this mode too, we have to adapt ourselves and to look alike. Peaceful me, peaceful you. Otherwise, the kingdom of my will cannot be established in you, since it is a kingdom of peace. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.